Hello and welcome to a very somber and impromptu episode of the History of Heavy podcast. We are doing this off the cuff on the heels of learning that Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76. And as Black Sabbath and Ozzy have been so not only important to, I mean, it is the basis of this show, essentially. We talk about Black Sabbath literally every episode of this show, regardless of what the topic of the episode is. Ozzy has been an extremely important character in both of our lives in different ways, and wanted to get on here just to take a few minutes to pay our respects and just talk a little bit about Ozzy. This for me was a massive blow. This is a very. I talked a little bit about it when we did our episode talking about the Back to the Beginning show and watching that, and I got extremely emotional just seeing Ozzy in the state he was in during that performance, and just he's kind of a marker of time for me. He's just been such a constant in my life that watching him age, get sick, and now pass away is very not only sad for losing Ozzy, but just a marker of my life passing as well. And it feels really, really heavy. And there's been a lot of significant ones, obviously, as you get older. And this is independent of people in our actual lives, friends and family, but specifically musician deaths. Whether it be David Bowie or Lemmy or Prince, a lot of significant musical figures in my life, in our lives, have passed in recent years. No more significant to me than Ozzy Osbourne. And so I just wanted to spend a few minutes, Dave, to talk about it. So I don't want to hog it too much, but tell me how you're feeling today. And actually, as we post this, he passed away yesterday. We're recording the day he passed, but this will be posted the day after. But how you feeling today, having heard the news?
Well, I'm really glad we pulled this together um, because Black Sabbath has such an outsized presence in this show as a result of having an outsized presence in each of our lives. And so it feels right to mark the occasion. Um, Overall, I'm feeling, I think, less sad and more at peace. Like I feel a sense of closure. This was obviously coming for many years. And I think the real headline is not Ozzy Osbourne passes away today, but man who should have died 30 years ago somehow made it through to today, right? Like the dude lived fast and put away wet, like the guy was the archetype rock star. And whereas the 27 Club is all archetype rock stars who didn't make it past 27. He lived just as hard and made it to 76.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to get to know his music and to get to have a personal relationship with the body of work that he was a part of. And I'm so thankful and so grateful that there was this very poignant and complete sense of completion with the Back to the Beginning show. After that show ended, I really felt a sense of accomplishment somehow,
Yeah.
or I shared their sense of accomplishment, I should say. It felt like, oh, okay, the feeling I had when I graduated high school was like, I'm done with this forever. I can put a cap on it, and it is enshrined. This has happened. And it is whatever it is cast in stone.
Mhm.
Um, you don't cast things in stone, but you follow me. It is. It is marked. It is complete. And for the couple of weeks following, I have really held that sense of closure. And so getting the news today was actually more of a relief to me because it felt like, right, you could see the guy was struggling, right? And what occurred to me watching that show was a similar sense that I had when you and I last saw Motorhead. And Lemmy was, you could see he was in pain. And I was thinking, man, I would have paid you to not have to play
Right.
because he was playing clearly for money, because he was never, that's a rock star theme, is not being good with money, or not getting your due. Um, but he was struggling and had medical bills and was on the road to pay those bills. Now that wasn't the case for Ozzy. This was a charity show, but it was definitely a capstone. It was definitely a moment of thank you. This is a final. There was finality to it, but I had that same sense of loss even watching it. Like,
Yeah, me
wow,
too. Yeah.
this is it's a little hard to watch a hero in a diminished state,
Mhm.
and the presence of music in our lives, especially yours, right? Your world is really organized around music.
Yeah.
Um, it's hard to capture the sense of loss. These songs will always be there, but you really hit on something when you mention this is a marker of the passage of time.
Yeah.
Um, I spent time growing up in San Diego, and we didn't really have seasons, and it was hard to, like, the passage of time was warped. And one of the things that people have noted about San Diego weather and other weather is, like, you feel the passage of time, and it feels like you're progressing through time in a way that is positive. Like, you look forward to the seasons, and then you put those seasons aside to get to the next season. I don't want to put this aside, but it is one of those things that we have to face, mortality. And in the grand scheme and the 30,000-foot view, what a ride. I got to spend some time on this ride. I got introduced to this ride at all. This ride exists at all because of him. And setting the bar both musically and culturally, lifestyle wise, just it hits on so many different levels at a very high mark. So I'm left with a sense of sober closure, reflective, thoughtful, a sense of loss, but a sense of closure, accomplishment. Like, this was going to happen, and it couldn't have played out better. It could not have played out better. What was going to happen? He was going to live another 10 years and just degrade farther and farther, and we would watch that happen. You don't want to see somebody waste away,
Right.
and that hurts. So that's kind of where my head has been in the last few hours. This is very fresh, right?
Yeah.
This is hours we've had to deal with this, not days. Um, but that's what's occurring to me in this moment.
Yeah, it is. I'm as you're talking, I'm sort of processing how I'm feeling about it too, and hearing your perspective is certainly helpful in that. As of this recording, we don't know officially what Ozzy died of. He has been stricken in recent years by Parkinson's disease, which is not fatal. I don't at all proclaim to be an expert, so maybe complications to Parkinson. I don't know,
Oh, I'm not a
um,
doctor.
and I don't want to speculate on what he passed of. But from an
Mm.
outside perspective, it certainly seems like he was holding on to have that final show in
Yeah,
Birmingham to say that final goodbye to the fans, which
right.
it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
It
Uh,
is.
do
We should
you?
all be so lucky as to have that type of a moment,
Yeah,
right? Like I feel like it was a blessing.
yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. Do you? And we've talked a lot about Black Sabbath and your experience initially being exposed to Black Sabbath. Do you remember the first time hearing Ozzy's voice, or kind of your first experience with Ozzy Osbourne as part of or independent of Black Sabbath?
Only as well, the first introduction was through Black Sabbath,
Mhm.
and I had graduated high school and was working in a camp in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and a friend of mine went into Santa Cruz and saw this band, Dinosaur Jr., and he comes back with a demo tape from this band that said, damn, this is a great band. And it was Nirvana. Or it wasn't their demo tape, it was Bleach, the
Mhm.
album that preceded Nevermind. And we're playing it, and one of the other guys in the kitchen was like, "This sounds a lot like Black Sabbath." I'm like, "What?" And yeah, so he brought in "We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll," the compilation tape, and we're listening to it on a tape. And we were listening to this, like, holy shit, this is awesome! Like the first, I, I'm sure that I had exposed to Black Sabbath at some point, that it had just happened in the background, but it went completely over my head. And hearing it in that moment with the context of where I was in my life, having just graduated high school, on my way to college, on my way to meet you, um, and being in this headspace and being just very open to the world. Uh, I was taking it in like drinking from the fire hose, and this was just a big part of that. And I remember being so gobsmacked. I went out and I got Masters of Reality. And one of the things that me and my buddy would do, that we were sharing a room in a cabin, is after working in the kitchen, because we were working in this like prep role. It was like prep cook and dishwasher. So we're cutting vegetables and washing dishes and breaking down boxes. And so after being on our feet all day, we go back to our room in the cabin, smoke a bowl, put on our Birkenstocks, and turn on Masters of Reality and just walk around in circles, relaxing our feet and relaxing our body and just getting into the music. And there was such a visceral connection with that time in my life, which is a really palpable time, in our lives when we graduate high school, or rather when we go out on our own. And for me, that was the same moment. I went out on my own. I immediately, Black Sabbath reached out, and I took a hold of the hand, and we have been walking hand in hand through life ever since. And I've expressed before, my relationship with the band and with the first two albums is like a dear friend. I I walk through life with a relationship with them, not a fandom, not a appreciation, but a relationship that's really deeper than I have with almost all other music. No other celebrities. I don't connect with celebrity like that. So it's been that's my original um introduction to Black Sabbath. Introduction to Ozzy was Black Sabbath,
Mm.
and I never really explored much of his solo career because I just found a home right there in those first few albums. And I'm still steeping in it. And I feel like it's such a cliche sometimes. I look outside of myself at myself. I'm like, are you fucking kidding, dude? But watching the show and seeing these messages come in from all over the world, everybody else feels this way too. It's not just me. It's not a cliche. It's legit. It's authentic. It's real. It's deep. It's big. it's impossible to really iterate the importance and the impact. But look at this podcast. We This is happening because of as a spin-off of this exact thing I'm stumbling around.
Yeah, no, I think you're articulating it really well. It's the power of music, and specific in this case, it's the power of that man's voice and that man's persona and that man's charisma. All of those things. I was first exposed to Black Sabbath very young, like probably before I was 10 years old. We sold our soul for rock and roll. That was the first Black Sabbath record I ever owned at around 10 or 11. When I was 12 years old, Ozzy's first solo record, Blizzard of Oz, came out in 1980. It terrified, intrigued, thrilled me. That record blew my mind. At that point, I was already exposed to Black Sabbath, into Aerosmith and Kiss and Cheap Trick and whatever. Loved hard rock, Ted Nugent. And that Blizzard of Oz, I mean, I literally have knuckle tattoos because of Ozzy Osbourne. If not for seeing Ozzy on the cover of Blizzard of Oz, that made an imprint on me forever. And the music was amazing, but Ozzy was something very unique and special. Ozzy ultimately released 13 solo albums. I only ever had a relationship with the first three. Blizzard, Diary of a Madman, which came out in 1981, and then Bark at the Moon, which came out in 1983. At that point, I was transitioning into thrash metal and a bunch of other things and never owned or really even listened to any of his albums after that. But it didn't matter because I had all the Black Sabbath albums. And it's interesting for the impact that he has had. I went back and thought about it, and there's I only ever saw Ozzy Osbourne perform, I think, 5 times in my life. I saw Ozzy Osbourne perform on May 29th in 1983 as part of the US Festival, where he followed Motley Crue and played just before Judas Priest on that day. I saw Ozzy on the Bark at the Moon tour. I never saw Randy Rhoads. The Bark at the Moon tour with Jakey Lee on guitar. That was April 4th, 1984 at the Long Beach Arena. Motley Crue and Pete Way's post-UFO band called Wasted opened that show. I saw Ozzy on the Ultimate Sin tour 2 nights in a row, June 14th and June 15th, 1986. But I was not there to see Ozzy. I was there to see the opening band that was called Metallica, touring for the Master of Puppets album on the Damage Incorporated tour. And then I saw Ozzy only one time with Black Sabbath on August 3rd, 2012 in Chicago. And
I'm going to correct that because you took me to an Ozfest
yeah,
or
I knew there was another Sabbath show and I could not place it. Please remind
was
me,
it?
what year was that?
Ooh, I don't remember, but I do remember that it was like a reunion show.
Never saw Bill
Iron
Ward.
Maiden was at that show as well, and I remember being
Yes.
blown away by Bruce Dickinson's energy and stage presence in contrast to Ozzy's.
Yes.
But saying I was there, knowing I was there, um, was a big deal because I've only seen Ozzy at Sabbath reunion shows. I think I've seen four.
Yes. Okay, here it is. Ozfest 2005, which was the 10th anniversary. It was Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Rob Zombie,
Yes,
um, Killswitch Engage, Shadows Fall, yada yada.
yeah, I remember Rob Zombie. Yes, that was the lineup. I remember that show.
Okay. Yeah, that it's funny when I was trying to recount these times, I always I will have these memories that I can't tell if they're false or not, but I couldn't pinpoint that specific other Black Sabbath time, but I'm glad you helped me recall that.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw them in '93 for the first reunion show
Mhm.
when Ozzy was touring and Black Sabbath was touring with Dio, and they were going to intersect in SoCal.
Oh
And
yeah.
so they said, "Hey, let's do this show." And so Ozzy came, or Black Sabbath played, sorry. Yeah, it was Black Sabbath, then Ozzy, then a Black Sabbath reunion. But Dio refused to share the stage with Ozzy, so Rob Halford was singing.
Hmm. Yeah, I wish I would have
And
seen
and
that.
I remember that, I took a Greyhound bus down from San Francisco just to see this show. I didn't have any money. It was a big deal to happen, and I made it happen. And then
Yeah.
I saw them again in '99. I think San Jose, the San Jose arena.
Hmm.
And I was working at a Harley shop, and the owner of the shop set us up with a limo because a bunch of us went. It was really cool. It was a very generous thing to do. So that was a really cool time. And then Ozfest, um, and I thought there was one more time.
Well, you saw him on the end, right? Did you say that?
I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't see him on the end either.
I don't think I saw that one. Maybe I only saw them the three times. Uh, but my memory is worse than yours. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it's for Ozzy, it's an interesting thing. He's had such a larger than life persona across all the antics and the craziness and the reality show, and just bigger than life in a lot of really great, amazing ways, and just what a charitable, humble, amazing, funny person he seemed to be, and notorious ways, biting the heads off bats and peeing on the Alamo and whatever. But still, to me, and I think you were touching on this a little bit, and it's about the celebrity thing too. It's like I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care about his stage performance, frankly. The main thing that I care about as it relates to Ozzy Osbourne is his voice. Is
yeah,
he has a top five all time voice for me. And it's not pitch perfect, and it's not operatic, and it's not multiple octave range. It is just unique. And there is only a single person that sounds like Ozzy Osbourne, and it's
yeah,
Ozzy Osbourne.
yeah,
I made this. I have this Spotify playlist of Black Sabbath cover songs
yeah.
that I recently expanded from 50 songs to 100 songs. So it's got
Which
the
is easy to
original.
do.
Yeah, it's a very me thing to do. So, and I it took me months to compile it because I only wanted to include versions that I actually like and not just throw a bunch of Sabbath covers onto this playlist.
Right.
So they're actually it includes the Sabbath original. So it's right. It's not exactly 100 songs, but it's 80 songs or whatever it is of really great Black Sabbath covers, and not a single one of them touches the original Black Sabbath version for Bill Ward's unique playing and Tony Iommi's touch and Bill Geezer Butler's amazing bass lines, and for a lot of reasons, but primarily because none of the singers, no matter if you're Chris Cornell or James Hetfield, can touch Ozzy Osbourne. His voice, coupled with Tony Iommi's riffs and the rhythm section of Geezer Butler and Bill Ward, was the most perfect combination, maybe outside of John Paul, George, and Ringo. It's amazing. I mean, his
Yeah.
voice was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and it's such a great compliment to the sound, right? If
Yeah.
you pull it out and unpack it as an instrument in the band, it really adds a layer that when you replace just that layer with any of the singers that you mentioned and any of the singers, myriad of singers that have done these covers, it just isn't the same. You can play the same notes, but you can't give it the swing that Bill does and the groove that Geezer does. And and the timbre of his voice, the place that it exists on the register fits with the music in just that right way. It
Perfect.
offers just
Perfect.
the certain amount of balance. And part of that could be the bias of first exposure. I didn't hear the Black Sabbath cover first. I heard the Black Sabbath song first, and that's the benchmark by which all other are judged. But even when I study it, when I think about it and break it down, those things can come close. Those covers can come close. The orbit comes near, but it doesn't intersect. It doesn't overlap. It isn't the same. So I hear you. The Ozzy portion of the band was an outlier. The rest of the guys were like these really, they took it really seriously, and he seemed to be kind of a joker. And it was an interesting or an important, I think, element of balance that brought some levity to
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
And when I first got exposed to the reality show, it was super cringe because I didn't want to see my Ozzy laid bare like this. But the more I got used to it, the more endearing it was. You saw him as a husband and a father and a dude. And all of a sudden, I felt closer to him because he wasn't this untouchable celebrity. He was a dude who had to deal with the cable guy and a daughter that was a teenager and a son with fucking llama hair. And like, it was like, oh, you're just a dude.
Yeah,
Um,
I sort of think of it. I think of Ozzy in three different ways. I think of Black Sabbath as one thing. I think of Ozzy Osbourne's music, primarily those first two solo records, as another thing, and then I think of Ozzy the celebrity
yeah.
as a different thing. And I engage in all three of those things very differently. I don't listen to Black Sabbath the same way I listen to Ozzy, and I certainly don't think of the reality TV star in the same way that I think about either of those other two things. They're all unique.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, you shared with me recently somebody's post of Ozzy meeting Paul McCartney,
Yeah.
and it was so endearing to see him starstruck.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, you're just a dude. Again, it was
Just
that
a dude.
that was the sense. Like, I remember him saying at one point, "I'm the fucking Prince of Darkness,"
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, but also your knees are knocking when you're meeting Paul McCartney,
Yeah.
who in that
All of ours would be, right?
well,
Yeah.
in that clip, it was it was a little bit of magic because I've mentioned before I took my dad to see Paul McCartney. My dad grew up with the Beatles and is a big, huge Beatles fan.
Yeah.
And we were at the whatever the San Francisco Giants Park was called at the time. Fucking huge, totally sold out. And there's Paul McCartney, this tiny little guy on stage, and it felt like he was there with me and my dad. It was this intimate evening with Paul McCartney. The dude's a master somehow. And in that moment, that interaction, he just was like totally engaged with Ozzy
Yeah.
for 15 or 20 seconds. And then, oh, we got to go. Okay, we got to go, man. You know how it is. We're peers.
Yeah.
Like we're on we are the same. And the whole thing was just masterful. Ozzy's starstruck take on it and Paul McCartney's mastery of drawing you in but never losing his like he's professional but he's going to bring you right in his world for a moment and you're going to share that space and he was completely there for Ozzy for those 20 seconds.
You know what stuck me so much about that clip was at the very beginning of it, you see Paul sitting in a dressing room or wherever he is, and then Ozzy comes into the room off screen, and Paul sees him, and he says something like, "Uh oh, here comes trouble," or
No, he's like,
something
oh, you're not
funny,
going to let that fucking guy in here.
which to me blew my mind from the perspective of oh my God, we live in a world where Paul McCartney knows who Ozzy Osbourne is,
Yep.
which just
Yep.
does
Yep.
not compute for what, like, of course he knows who Ozzy Osbourne is, but just that
Well,
is
and
something
of
that,
course, everybody knows who Paul McCartney is,
right.
right? But here, Paul McCartney knows who Ozzy is, and it was in that playful way. Oh, you're not going to let that guy in here. Hey, come on over here. How's it going?
No,
Like,
but what I mean is, what that means is Paul McCartney has heard NIB or
oh,
whatever,
right, right,
which just blows my brain back. Like, Paul
right,
McCartney, a Beatle, has
right.
listened to Black Sabbath, which just they feel like alternate realities to me, and it's just
Th-
awesome. I love it.
they definitely are. I don't think it's a feeling. I think it's a statement of fact.
Right?
Those are they are whole, universe, galaxies that are separate. The fact that there's a Venn diagram and where they I hear what you're saying. I
Yeah.
can't envision the Venn diagram where they intersect, but somewhere there's an intersection.
Yeah.
So
Well, sadly, the world is a bit darker place today. And as if we needed it, we have more reason to listen to more Black Sabbath. Anything else, Dave, you want to say about Ozzy before we kind of tee up next week?
what can I say that hasn't already been said?
Right.
You know what I can say? Thank you, Ozzy.
Thank you, Ozzy. Yeah, that's the right sentiment. It really is sad, but I think what you described at the top is right. That he lived well beyond his years in his 76 years, and he seems, by all accounts, to have had a great life and left obviously this amazing, extremely um, just incredible legacy and
Yeah,
catalog for us all to dive into.
yeah, and we'll have that forever.
We'll have that forever. So here's our plan. What we have altered our programming a little bit as a result of today's news. And so next week we are going to dig into those first aforementioned Ozzy Osbourne solo records. Next week we are going to talk about Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. We will pick up our regular chronological song conversations after that to finish off the 70s. And then we'll have
Finish
some
off
additional
1970.
about 1970. We have one more song to talk about in 1970, that being Deep Purple's Bloodsucker. We'll get into that after we talk about the Ozzy records. And then we're gonna intermix some Sabbath complete albums to talk about, dedicate episodes to those, to celebrate Ozzy and this music that we love, and kind of more formally talk about Sabbath as complete statements, just because it feels like the right thing to do given the news of today. Dave, anything else to close us out? Okay.
That's it.
Well,
That's a
thank you
perfect
all for,
closing right there.
yeah, yeah. Thank you all for listening. Rest in peace, John Ozzy Osbourne, and we will see you on the other side.
Listen to Black Sabbath.
Listen to Black Sabbath.
Okay, thank you. Bye.